Welcome to Weekend Night Live, hosted by Samuel Jacobs Abbey, where we play music, talk shows, and interviews on Be Inspired Podcast Network. Stay tuned and keep your dial on www.beinspiredpodcast.com. Don't forget to stay connected, be inspired, be unique, and be different.
First question is, how can I know this person will be the right person to marry? The second one is, what should you or should you not share before marriage? That is, how much transparency is too much? The third question is, how does one develop and maintain trust in a relationship? Excuse me. And then, four, what do I do if my marriage is not going the way I expected? And the fifth one will be, how can I make sure my marriage will last? Well, these are the ones we have to kick off with. And then, definitely we will have also everything open, the phone line, online also, your questions flowing, no problem at all. We'll be happy to receive them. So we start with the first question. How can I know this person will be the right one to marry? Vivian will take first.
Okay, so how can I know if this person is the right person? First of all, you need to know yourself. You need to know your strengths, your weaknesses, and think about it. Will this person challenge me to be a better person? Or does he or she challenge me in our relationship so far? Is it challenging to make me a better person? What qualities does this person have? Or what values does this person have? That is important to me. Is this a special person that I want to be in company with for the rest of my life? Is the person caring enough? Whether it's a woman or a man, is he or she caring enough? And as Christians, you also think about it, is this person prayerful enough? Do we pray together at any time? Do we share the same Christian values? And beyond feeling good about this person, when you are in the person's company, first of all, do you feel good in their company? And if you do feel good, does this person respect me? Whether a woman or a man. Does she respect me? Does he respect me? And do we willingly share? Does this person willingly share information with me? What doesn't matter, whatever it is. How much conversation do we have? Do we share information with each other? And does this person allow me to be myself, to be who I am when I'm in his or her company, or am I always on edge, trying to be someone I am not? Do I feel free? If I say something, how is it received? And whatever I do, if I wear something, do I feel confident in this person's presence? Is this person sensitive to my needs and my concerns? You have to think of all these things. What do you see in your relationship? You have to marry for love, not pity. And if you think you are getting married to this person because you are doing him or her a favor, please just stop it. Don't even go ahead. It's not going to go well. Because you don't marry to give someone a favor or pity the person. And you also don't feel that if, I don't get this one, I'm not going to get anyone again. Sometimes that is the problem. You have to marry someone you really like, someone you are attracted to, you feel good in the person's presence, and you marry someone you respect and who respects you. Is this a person I would like to be the father or mother of my children? Somebody I want to co-parent with? You have to think of all those things. Those are the pointers that make you know that this is the right person for you. And is this someone I would like to be with the rest of my life? If all these questions you can answer them right, that yes, all that we are asking, if it's yes, then it's the right person for you. And then you can go ahead.
I like the idea of checking with God, who knows you and knows who will be the best for you. When we read about the first marriage in Genesis chapter 2, from verses 8 and then 15 to 17, we see how he prepared the man by giving him a place to live in, a job, and then he made sure the man was in right spiritual standing before he gave him a wife. The same Genesis, we read that God brought the woman to him, and we often point out that it means the woman walked with God into her marriage. So a woman is not passive in the process. As a woman, you need to prepare yourself to be the suitable partner for this person as well. So if you're a woman, don't only be looking out for the best man. As the saying often goes, you want Mr. Right, make sure you are Miss Right. And you want Miss Right, make sure you are Mr. Right. These are important. And I would also want to just add one more point about caring, really showing that you care for each other. This is very important. Giving attention to each other. Someone who is sensitive to your needs, and responds sometimes even without being asked. Quite often we hear people they're talking about the beauty of the person, and all that. But as we say, charisma should not take the place of character. If anything, character should override charisma, because ultimately the behavior of the person you live with will be more important than how beautiful they are. You can marry the most beautiful, the most handsome, and find yourself in a whole lot of heartache. So that's the first question. How can I know this is the right person? When we are open for questions or comments, you can also let us know what you think. So we move on to the second question, which says, what should you or should you not share before marriage? In other words, or how much transparency is too much? First of all, we need to note that sharing promotes unity. We talk about sharing being the building block of friendship. The more you share, the deeper your friendship can develop. And friendship is needed in marriage. You can't marry, and remain strangers. So this is important. Sharing promotes unity because it creates better understanding. The more you understand the person, the easier it's going to be to bond to the person. So it's important to consider how you will be able to share. This is why in thinking of who to marry, we talked earlier about the willingness to share. If the person is not willing to share about himself, herself, you have to think again. So what do we share? Well, first of all, it's how we share. It should be honest, truthful. What are some of the things we need to share? Our backgrounds. What makes you who you are? Where you grew up, how you grew up, experiences you have had in life. Because these help whoever it is you are with or you will be with for the rest of your life to understand what are your likes and dislikes. We sometimes said people don't say too much about yourself. Well, how is the person to know to relate to you if you're not letting them know how you should share with each or how they can relate to you? Then what about your expectations? Your expectations in life, or first of all, your expectations in marriage. What would you expect as a married person? What would you expect from your partner? Then how about your goals in life? Goals in life. And when we say goals in life, talk about your educational goals as well as career goals. When we say educational, maybe you have a bachelor's degree or maybe you haven't even gone to college and you want to go to college. Now, that's going to take money. And if you marry before that, it's going to affect your finances. So what will you do? What will you say about that? This is important, and you need to understand all of that. This is very important. Your educational goals. How about career goals? Maybe you started working. Maybe where you are now is an hourly paying job, lowly paying job, but you have plans to earn more. How about sharing with this person who will be part of that journey with you? Then we also talk about emotional transparency. Emotional transparency. What do we mean by that? This basically means sharing how you feel about, things. Things that happen in the relationship. Things that happen even in everyday life. They ought to know when this happens, this is how it affects me. When that happens, this is how I feel. When you talk to me this way in front of people, this is how I feel. When you don't call me, this is how it makes me feel. We're not talking about complaining. We're talking about letting the person know who you are. It doesn't help to keep these things. And then after marriage, the person begins to find out all these things. It doesn't really promote deepening the relationship. What else can we share? We also share information about our friends, close friends, and especially the important people in our lives. This is really important. Those who have made an impact in our lives. You might say, oh, the person is not here now. Well, what if they contact you sometime on Facebook or some, other medium? And then suddenly, who's this person? Especially if they are of the opposite sex. It helps to share about these people early in the relationship rather than later, because it clears all possible suspicions or concerns. Your partner, your spouse is not going to be worried about this person or that person. It's all out in the opening. And to conclude this, just a note of caution, because occasionally we come across this. Beware of unnecessary focus and obsession about your partner's past life and relationships, especially sexual relationships. The point is this: why do you want to know? And what benefit will it do to you? What benefit will it do to you if or give to the relationship if you knew those things? You know? So watch out. You know, if you are so obsessed, who did you sleep with? What did you, who else, and all this, that's why we say an unnecessary focus and obsession with it. We're not saying don't even talk about it at all, but it should even be in the right context. Otherwise, we do not help. And as we share, let's note this: we have to speak the truth in love. We have to speak the truth in love. Ephesians 4, verse 15. Very, very important. Okay.
So the third question is, how does one develop and maintain trust in the relationship? How do you develop and maintain trust in the relationship? That's the first thing we just talked about. Ephesians 4:25, speak the truth in love.
4:25. This is what it says.
Let your yes be yes and your no be no. Ephesians 4:25 says, therefore each of you must put off falsehood and speak truthfully to your neighbor, for we are all members of one body. Speak the truth to one another. That is, let your yes be yes and your no be no. Honor your word. When you say you're going to do something, do it. When you commit to something, do it. And don't give excuses. Don't, some people are very good at giving excuses when they are not able to do something. When you are doing that, you don't build trust in the other person. Don't hide information from each other. It undermines trust when you hide information from the other person. Something sensitive that happens all the time. Phone messages, passwords. Do we share passwords? Do you know the password of your partner? And why?
Spouse, you mean?
Your spouse.
Married people.
And why don't you know the password? Or why don't you share the password? Why do you hide information from the other person? It doesn't build trust. Whatever it is, we can talk about it. Let your spouse know and feel that they are your priority, that there is no one else, and make the person feel good, make the person feel important. Because if we hide things from each other, it cannot build trust. You see, how do you want to know everything about your partner, but you don't want them to know everything about you? It doesn't work that way. We need to be truthful to each other. Speak the truth with each other. Sometimes it's fear that makes us hide things from each other, but it doesn't help. You don't even know. If you say it out, you don't know how the thing is going to be. So talk it out. Say it and feel free. That is the way to build trust. The thing is that when you begin to speak freely to your spouse also trusts you and begins to speak freely with you too. So let us feel free with each other, speak the truth with each other.
And about hiding information, a few things to highlight. For example, making plans, having plans, making plans with your friends, I'm not talking of a surprise party for your partner or spouse, but making plans with friends, other people, extended family, especially when you're married and your spouse doesn't know. This is one sure way of undermining trust. How about income? Does your spouse know your income? And how about spending? You know, does your spouse know how you're spending? Or, as somebody said, it's my money. Really? So you can share everything, including your bodies, when you're married, that is, but not your money. That says a lot. What you value, you know. So this is one sure way you can undermine trust. How truthfully you share, you know. And then especially when something goes wrong, being excuse me, honest enough to own up can also help to build trust in the relationship. It helps to build trust. You know, this is really important. Knowing that, oh, my partner will go along with me and help me understand or deal with something that might not be right. Which leads us to the fourth question we have, which says, what do I do if my marriage is not going the way I expected? I think you can actually add relationship also to it, and we'll seek to address both, not just marriage. But if your relationship is not going the way you expected, well, let's first read Matthew 18, verses 15 to 17. Matthew 18, verses 15 to 17. We will use that as the basis for, some of the points we will make. And this is important because it talks about dealing with conflict issues, Matthew 18, verses 15, that's 1:5 to 1:7. 15 to 17. This is Jesus speaking.
Matthew 18, verses 15 to 17. Moreover, if your brother sins against you, go and tell him his fault between you and him alone. If he hears you, you have gained your brother. But if he will not hear, take with you one or two more, that by the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses every word may be established. And if he refuses to hear them, tell it to the church. But if he refuses even to hear the church, let him be to you like a heathen and a tax collector.
Amen. Matthew chapter 18, verses 15 to 17. So what can we learn from this? When things are not going well, the first principle is find out why things aren't going well, and do so directly from your spouse, or if you're in a relationship, from your partner. That's the first step. Don't go talking to other people first. The person in the relationship, in the marriage, needs to know first. And then what happens? 2 things. If the person tells you, then the 2 of you discuss how to address the issues raised. That's the starting point. So again, the starting point is not telling everybody else except the person. What if the person doesn't provide any useful answer or answers? That's when you need to seek help. 2 areas or two potential people we'll mention. First, you can seek help from a counselor or from someone respected by both spouses or both partners. We emphasize both because if it happens to be someone respected by only one, sometimes, whatever is said can easily be misinterpreted. You know, for example, if the person says something that does not favor the one who respects him or her, then that's it. So, oh, you're siding with the other person. So first, find out directly from your spouse or your partner what's going on, or let them know. So you find out what's wrong, or you let them know directly what is not going well. Don't assume they would know. Don't assume. You know, sometimes we come across, he should know what he has done. She should know. But hey, maybe they don't even know at all. We're all different. And the way we may interpret or, consider certain situations can be very different. Then the next point is this. So first you find out directly from the person, or you tell them directly. Okay. Next, or not in order of, but another point is resist spreading your bad or sad news. Looking for people who will side with you or blame your spouse or partner. This is natural. We like to find out people who will agree with us, people who will say what we like, and especially if we get people who will blame our partner, oh, that's even better. He is wrong. I knew it. Now somebody also sees how I'm suffering. She is the one. I always thought so. No, just looking for someone who will side with you may send you off the wrong track completely. And in any case, when you are the one who is spreading the bad news about your relationship, guess what? You are reducing the respect people have for you by just spreading bad things about your spouse or your partner. You might think you are making your spouse or partner look bad. But really, if others disrespect the person, guess who's with the one? You. And why do you think they will respect you more? If you're married to the person, and if you're making everybody think of how foolish that person is, guess who's married to the foolish person? Or the wicked person? Or the uncaring person? So, beware what you're telling people about your relationship or marriage. Remember that ultimately, your relationship is your own responsibility to develop. So, you must cultivate and grow it. You have to do it. Nobody is going to do it for you. You have to do it. And one of the important things, you find this culturally, you find this biblically, learn to resolve issues by yourselves. Like we read from Matthew 18. Learn to resolve issues by yourselves. It is a sign of maturity. And note that simply talking about something does not mean it is resolved. Just talking about it, so I've told him, I've told her, that doesn't mean the person knows how to fix it. So what do? Commit to working together. And it helps a lot for us to check if we could be the cause ourselves. We who are, we feel aggrieved. Maybe we are the cause. For example, we have been taking our partner for granted, and so they are also behaving in certain ways, As we talk together, let's determine what changes are needed. 3 areas. What changes are needed by you as an individual, by your spouse or partner, and what changes are needed by both of you. The commitment must be to working together, not you fix yourself and then we will have a perfect marriage. It's two who agree. It's not one person. It's 2 people who agree, not one person. This is very, very important, And then once you have identified what changes are needed, agree on the actions needed, and encourage each other along the way. Because change may not come automatic, especially if there are behaviors that have been long ingrained in the person, maybe even before you met them, or before you got married, or they've been part of your marriage for a long time. This is very important. So deal with it. As the medical people tell us, when there is a deep wound, sometimes the first step is to scrape the surface, and then we can administer or apply the right medication to the wound, because scars may have covered the wound. If you have a scar covering your pain, perhaps this might be the time, Spirit, to clear the scar so that the real wound, the hurt in your relationship, can be dealt with. All right. So we come to the fifth question.
How can I make sure my marriage will last?
Okay, you go first.
How can I make sure my marriage will last?
Yes.
First of all, know that it depends on both of you. You both have to work towards a lasting marriage. Take the marriage seriously. Everything that comes with it, take it seriously. And don't just settle to endure the marriage. A lot of people are just enduring their marriage. Some of them, if you've had children, 2 or 3 children, because of the children, you want to be in the marriage. Don't be in the marriage because of the children. Don't be in the marriage because of anything else, but because you want to be there, not because of anything. If you endure, those who sometimes endure because of the children, when the children are grown, leave because you don't care anymore. But make sure that you are in it for yourself and you work towards it. And one of the things you need to do is to take divorce totally out of your mind, out of your vocabulary. That if you want a lasting marriage, then don't think of divorce. And don't threaten divorce all the time. Something happens immediately, 1, 2, 3, I want a divorce. I can divorce someone. Why don't you divorce me and go away? Stop all those things if you want your marriage to last. And I believe we all want our marriage to last. So take divorce totally out of the question. In Proverbs chapter 27, verse 18 says that he who tends the fig tree will eat its fruit, and he who faithfully protects and cares for his master will be honored. If you tend the fig tree, you will enjoy it. If you tend your partner, if you work on the marriage, you will both enjoy. You will both enjoy the marriage. So you need to work at it. What are some of the things you consider? Take time to be with each other. What are the concerns of your partner? What are the likes and dislikes for each other? Make sure you do something to make each other happy. Make plans together. Don't plan separately and assume that your spouse will go along with the plan. Talk about everything. Plan everything together. Do things together. Pray together and play together. Have games. Do things together. And watch something together. Watch TV together. Watch a program together. Sometimes the men think that the women's programs are too weak. What are those?
Lifetime TV.
Lifetime TV. So they won't watch with the women. And the women
Hallmark for Christmas movies.
And the women are also thinking he's always watching sports and all that. It's boring. But if we take time to do things with each other, you realize that the men will realize that the women's programs some of them are nice. They will enjoy it, and the men will begin to see. The women will also begin to see that hey, the sports is interesting. You will begin to understand. Maybe you don't understand anything about the sports, but if you take your time to be with him and ask questions at the right time, you know, you will learn, and you'll be able to do things together.
Wonderful. One of the things we need to do is to know what is happening in each other's life. You're surprised we're saying this? Yes, two people can be in the marriage, as we sometimes say in our seminars, share the same bed, eat the same food, live in the same house, sit in the same car, and they will be growing apart. So what do? This is what the Proverbs say. Proverbs 27, verses 23 and 24. Proverbs 27, verses 23 and 24. From the Amplified version of the Bible, it says, be diligent to know the condition of your flocks. Number one person in your life should be your spouse. And pay attention to your herds. It says, for riches are not forever, nor does a crown endure to all generations. You know, be diligent. It means we should be active about it. You know, it won't just happen. We have to be active about it, you know, and then pay attention. Observe carefully. That's paying attention. And then doing something about it. You know, you don't just see and then leave. So what are some of the things we can do? Grow and deepen your love. Grow and deepen your love. Marriage is a journey. You know, in many cultures, marriage is represented as something long-term, not short-term. You know, in this microwave Instagram generation, marriage has almost become trial and error. You know, let's go in. If it doesn't work, we are out. But marriage, as God intended, is lifelong and something that will not just happen. Each of us needs to be part of it. Just as we read in Proverbs 27:18, we have to tend the tree of our marriage, deepen it, water it, share what makes you feel loved. You know, some of the fertilizer we can give to the tree of our marriage is surprising each other with acts of love, kindness, and caring. You know, some of the things we can do to show we care for each other. You know, and I'm going to say this from a man's viewpoint. Vivian might have some things from a woman's viewpoint. You know, cooking. Yes, I'm saying it. You know, cooking. How about your wife, by the time she comes home, you started the meal or you fix the meal? And ladies, at least give us A for effort. Don't start criticizing what your husband has done. At least he's made an effort, you know. Appreciate it. How about bathing the kids? Who said these things were only for women to do? You know. How about planning a weekend getaway just by yourselves? You know, to make your spouse feel special. And not only on holidays or birthdays, you know, or at Christmas. Even for Christmas, some, you know, we've heard some husbands say, oh, Christmas is for the children. Who said? Where? And how? Maybe that's how you grew up if you're a husband. But, hey, your wife too can enjoy at Christmas. And not only on those times, but out of the blue, surprise each other. Those are the things that fuel the relationship. They provide more for us. You know, what else?
And sometimes, you know, when we talk about surprising each other, you know, for most of the time, the women expect the men to surprise them. But they don't think of surprising the men.
We also love
the men also love surprises. The men also love gifts. Christmas is not only for children, it's for everybody.
And not only for the husband to give his wife gifts.
Not only for the husband to give gifts, the wife should also give gifts. Valentine's Day is not only for the women to expect from the men. The women should also give gifts at different prices, different times, and surprise each other at any time. Take time to do that with each other. Another thing you can do to make the marriage last is to attend seminars together.
Refresh your knowledge.
To refresh your knowledge. Some people, when they hear there's a marriage seminar, we don't have problems.
We think of it as enriching your marriage.
Yes, it is not problems. You don't have problems. That's not why you are attending a seminar. You are enriching your marriage. Even if your marriage is going well, it can do even better. So attend seminars together. Read good Christian books together. Read Christian marriage books together and share. If one person reads, you can share with the other. Oh, this is what I read. Discuss it. Talk about it. Find good movies to watch. Like War Room.
The War Room.
And discuss what you have seen, what you have. Talk about it. It all helps when you are discussing these things.
And how about listening to this podcast every month?
Sure.
That's one way we can all refresh our knowledge.
Yes.
And enrich our marriage.
Questions.
Ask questions. And then discuss the topic afterward.
Yes.
It always helps. That's one thing we've done. Whatever one of us reads about relationships or marriage, we discuss. We share. We don't have to wait till we're sitting at home after meals. Sometimes we're just driving along and we discuss, And then the final thought, especially since it's the end of the year, let's be thankful for the person God has placed in our life and work together to make the relationship better, to make the marriage better, rather than only seeing and harping on what is wrong or bad about it. It's so easy to compare your marriage to another person's and to think of how wonderful their marriage is. But you don't know what they have put into it. You're only seeing the fruits of it. And perhaps, as somebody said, you're only seeing what's on the outside. You don't know what's on the inside. It's very important. Like back to Proverbs 27, verse 18, let us tend. Let us patiently work together, water the relationship, strengthen each other, and we will be the very ones who will enjoy the fruit of that marriage. Amen, and thank you for listening. I think we're all set now to go to Sam or John to take us through question time. And your questions are ready. You can send them on as well. If John is on, you can give us a number to text questions to. And then Sam, you can also do the same so that we can take it from there. So over to you.
Yep, so we are very grateful. As usual, we know that today marks the last program for the year, and we are thankful for all those questions that has been asked. Just in case you want to send a message, you can send a message to 571-337-9185 if you are within the U.S. Outside of the U.S., you put +1 571-337-9185, and we will read your message. You can use the same number for WhatsApp, and we'll also be able to read them out. So we have a couple of questions that are in, and I want to go straight away. The first question is coming from Virginia, and he said, how does one develop and maintain trust in marriage when in fact you don't seem to agree on anything?
Well, I was going, this is one that is helpful to discuss because to answer this, we have a question. Why don't you agree on anything? What is it? Why do you have to argue about everything? Why are you not agreeing on everything? And maybe to prove you wrong, at least, You have agreed on being married to each other. So you have agreed on something. Take it from there. What made you come together? And then the point is, what are the things you don't agree on and why? Without having more information, it's difficult to say more. But these are questions to make you think. At least you agreed to live, to be married. That's if you are married. And if you are not married and you're in a relationship, you agreed to be in the relationship. Why are you in the relationship? At least that's one thing you've agreed on. And then, what issues are you disagreeing on? And why? Anything else you have?
Yeah, that's it. You talk about it. If you see that there is a problem and we are not agreeing, maybe your partner doesn't even realize that you are not agreeing on so many things. So talk it over with each other. Bring it out. Let the person, it seems that we are disagreeing very much on everything. Anything I raise, you seem to have something opposite, so why is it that way? Then you talk about it, raise the topic and talk about it and discuss. Then you can pick it up from there. Because maybe you are thinking you don't agree on anything, your partner doesn't see it that way. Because it does happen sometimes. One person, we have a problem, and the other, we don't have any problem. I don't know what she's talking about. I don't know what he's talking about. We don't have any problem. So you bring it up, exactly what you think is the problem. Bring it out and talk it over with your partner. Let your partner know this is what is happening, and then talk.
And since the question was linked to developing trust, maybe we should also ask, are you disagreeing on maybe the principle of something is right or wrong? For example, lying. Okay, I'm just throwing something that if somebody tells a lie, it's okay to lie. If you are disagreeing on something like that, then as the Americans say, Houston, we have a problem. Because you must have a basis for relating to each other. So those are, questions to help you discuss rather than simply argue and then, to conclude, we don't agree on anything. Yeah. Thank you.
Got you. Thank you so much. So another question coming in, and the question here is, what if you are in long distance relationship and the person is in another country? How do you get your parents' blessing before you marry?
Well, if you want your parents' blessing, they have to know about the person. So maybe what you're really asking is, how do you get them to be able to know the person better? You can be the person's best ambassador. Think of yourself as that person's representative. You can be the bridge between the person and your parents. So your parents know you, they don't know the person. And if you need your parents' blessing to accept the person, then they need to get to know the person. So you can first talk about the person to them, let them know some background, why you think this will be the right person for you,
And then he or she himself also needs to introduce himself or herself to your parents,
Right.
Sometimes by writing letters to them.
Business, Skype, FaceTime.
Well, so many things.
Phone, all kinds of things.
You can start gradually, and then phone call, talk with them, and then you can have, these days, even WhatsApp video calls, so they can see the person's face, or FaceTime or Skype or whatever. Find ways to talk, the person should directly also talk with your parents, so that it's not always you telling them something. They need to know the person themselves. They need to ask the person questions themselves so that they can be sure of whoever you are getting into
Who's taking the daughter away?
or their
Or
son
who the
who
son is bringing to the
right.
family?
So that's some of the things you can do.
So build the bridge, and then the person can walk across the bridge.
Right.
And if you are in the same country with the person, it should even make it easier to do so. And if you are not, sometimes you might be the one to make that connection, electronic connection, so that the conversations can take place. And what we encourage, don't wait until you have made all your plans to get married. You know, the person has proposed, you're making plans before you tell your parents. It becomes very difficult to discuss with them. And it has caused many unnecessary heartaches, you know. Yes, the parents may not be choosing for you, but remember that person is going to be part of the family. Don't think because they are, you know, in another country and you might be living in another country with them, that's it. We don't expect you are cutting yourself up or from your family. Neither would that person also cut himself or herself off from their family. So remember, it's not even only your parents, but from the other side also, you need to work both ends. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. The other question here is, what if your partner doesn't fear anything or anyone in terms of seeking help or counseling? So I'm sure the question is, what if the person doesn't believe in counseling or does not even want to even engage anybody in for help?
If your partner doesn't fear anybody, doesn't think that they need counseling, two ways. If this is a relationship leading to marriage, it's a good warning sign. It's a red flag for you.
Not one, plenty flag, red flag.
So, if it is a relationship leading on to marriage, and the person doesn't think that you need counseling or doesn't fear anybody, doesn't respect anybody, run away. Don't even continue. If this is a marriage and the person doesn't think that they need any advice from anybody, they don't need any counseling or anything, turn it over to God. Pray for this person. And by all means, there may be somebody, you will know somebody whom they will listen to. So get to that person and let them talk to your partner.
All right, thank you very much. All right, so another question here. It said, well, my husband and I have been married for 6.5 years now. We are going to enter into our 7th anniversary next year. The one problem that we have never agreed on is to have a joint account. My husband thinks that his money should be separated from my money, and so we both have different accounts. Do you think it's a rightful thing to do? I don't know if it works well for us, but that is what he preferred. So in order for us to have good marriage, I have just accepted it as such. So, but do you think it's a conversation that we need to have? Thank you very much.
It's surely a conversation that you need to have. But you see, the thing starts from before the marriage. What did you agree on before you got married? There are things you consider. These are things you discuss before the marriage. And if there are any problems, you sort it out before the marriage. It is good. The best thing is for you to have a joint account, but that should be settled before the marriage. And what you are saying, you don't know if it's working for you. Maybe it's not working for you. You should rather come out and say it's not working for you. But it is the two of you who will talk about it. First, sometimes when someone is saying that my partner doesn't want a joint account, The real thing is that you are not even telling the person everything. You are not telling the other person how much you earn, what you have, and all that. But you are expecting the other person to tell you everything. So how about starting with yourself? Telling the person everything. What you earn, what you are doing, how you are managing your money. And if you don't have a joint account, how do you work it out? Do you, apportion, things to each other, what each person should do, or what? How is it working? If it's not working, you have to tell your partner it's not working. You don't think it's working. But if you think it's working for you, it's not for us to tell you that change it. You have to think about it. If you think it's not working for you, then it's something to talk about. And let your partner know that this thing is not working. I don't think this is how it should be, and talk about it.
So the point or principle is one of being honest and transparent about your finances. Some might say, oh, but do we really need a joint account? Whether you have joint or separate, it should be clear to either of you. And let me say this to my, colleagues, the men. Sometimes the fear is that if she knows, she will ask for more. But if she knows you don't have more, why will she ask for more? Sometimes the woman asks for more because she's seeing you sending off Western Union and MoneyGram elsewhere, all giving money to other people, and she thinks maybe he has more, but maybe you are really squeezed. How does she know? Sometimes it's the woman who has all kinds of demands on her, but he also doesn't know, so he might think she's okay. So the more transparent you are about these things, we can tell you from experience, not just ours, but over the years, we've seen couple after couple, the more transparent they are, the easier it is for them to handle their finances in a harmonious manner. But so long as one person is keeping something back, it's not going to work harmoniously. There's always the thought that maybe he has some more, maybe she has some more. And then that niggling question at the back of the mind, why doesn't she want me to know? Why doesn't he want me to know? And the person knowing does not mean they're going to demand more from you. In any case, if you're doing things together, there's nothing like my wife is asking me for more money or my husband is asking me for more money. Because you're doing the things together. You're planning your finances together, discussing them together. And so there's nothing like one is asking for more or anything like that, because it's all out in the open and you can work together harmoniously. Thank you.
Thank you. So this one is coming from Congo DR, and it says that in reference to your question number 2, what should you or should not share before marriage, and how transparency is too much? Well, my situation here is that I made a huge mistake in my marriage. I unfortunately have an affair outside of my marriage, and every time something pushes me to tell my husband, but I know the day I spilt it out, that will be the end of our marriage. Since we are on this platform, what would be the best of advice that you can give me? Should I or should I just keep it away? It's been 4 years since this happened.
Well, for one thing, you say it's sitting on your mind and eating you up. You also know your husband. This is where when you work with a counselor, it's better, because, as you say, if you know what's going to happen, then it needs to be handled carefully. But you might be surprised that it may not go the way you want. But if it's eating you up, chances are that it's affecting your marriage. It's affecting your relationship with your husband. Is it making you hold back? Is it affecting your sexual relationship, for example? These are things that you have to consider, and perhaps, as we're saying, it might be necessary for you to work with a counselor on this, rather than you do it alone with your partner. This is important, very delicate, and needs to be handled carefully. The person might even need to be prepared for it, so that both of you can handle it well and then work through it as well. Yes, you need a lot of godly wisdom, as well as psychological help and counseling. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And this is also coming from Ghana, and it says that, oh, thank you so much. What a way to end the year. A lot of thoughtful questions. I have one though. My question here is similar to the one that was asked earlier on. My husband, I have caught him many times misbehaving. In the name of marriage and in the name of our children, I just let it go. It happened the third time, and I packed my things and went to my mother's house. My mother wouldn't tolerate that nonsense because my mother is an old school biblical wife. So she asked me to go back to my marital home. I have been in my marital home now, yet I am not happy because my husband knows that he cannot stop chasing other women other than me. I wonder if marriage is even something joyous as it's been claimed. We've been married for 7 years now. Thank you.
So the thing is that the problem has not been dealt with. You went to your mother's house and she just sent you back. They didn't deal with the problem. Nobody called him. Nobody talked with him. I don't know if you yourself talked it over with him. He needs to be brought to book. You need to seek help from a good counselor. You need to find, why is he doing that? Is there a problem? Are you not enough for him? Why are you not enough for him? Find out and sort it out. You should come out with it. Just sending you back to your husband's house does not solve the problem. You have to deal with it. So find somebody who can help you handle it. He needs to be confronted. And I don't buy this that he knows that he can't stop chasing other people. What kind of human being is he? He's not a dog, so he cannot say that he can't stop chasing other people. Every human being
decided he can't stop.
And you cannot decide that. So you need to seek help.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Today we are in the East Africa. This is coming from Kenya, and it says, well, you mentioned that we should not even think of divorce as an option, but we should strive to work our relationship until we are settled. You seem to consider this to be as easy. It is not, because every day you see it right in your nose, and you know the only option for you is to walk out and start your life peacefully. Otherwise, one of these days, you end up dying out of stress. Do you still think that divorce is not an option? Thank you.
I'm not sure if we said it's not an option, because there are circumstances that might warrant it. What I remember Vivian saying is, we do not make that the way out. Once something happens, and she cautioned about using threats of divorce to try to get somebody to behave differently. You mentioned the word stress. If this is ongoing, then what is causing it? And how can it be dealt with? And who can help you deal with it? You see, sometimes, we've said it earlier, sometimes we just kind of, shall I use the word stomach or endure? That was the word we said, endure. These things. I may have said it before on this program that, I used to run cross country. And the most difficult times are the times when you are running alone, somewhere in the middle of the race. It's hard. You feel like stopping to walk, but you have to think of the goal. You have to think it's not over. I can do this. Can I do this? And sometimes having someone to come alongside you encourages you. A teammate who's also running the race helps you along. Who can help you deal with this? You know, it is. We shouldn't handle these things alone, and then always look for the door. You know, as one person put it, if you open the door, whenever something is happening, it's very easy to look out and begin to say to yourself, I can walk through this door. If you shut the door and you're sitting inside there talking, you're more likely to talk through whatever it is. And if it's a matter of not being able to discuss, then you find out how can we handle these things. Let us not suffer alone in silence. That's where stress builds up the most. You know, that's where stress builds up the most. And especially within marriage, some people, and you know, it used to be that we'll say, you know, especially women might keep quiet, you know, to protect, in quotes, their husband's honor. You know, when the men are misbehaving, like somebody said, or not treating them right. They may not be going after another woman, but the husband may not be treating the wife right. But sometimes also it may be the wife who's causing the stress. And the husband might feel embarrassed to let somebody else know that this is how the wife is treating him. We need help. And that's why God puts people in our lives. You know, seek help. Don't suffer in silence.
My brother or sister, you know, marriage is not easy. It is not easy at all. And it doesn't, what we are saying is not like it's easy, you know, when we say don't think about divorce. But if you aim at making your marriage work and you don't, you know, think so much of divorce, you want it to work, you want it to last, you can make it work, you can work at it. You know, the late Billy Graham's wife was asked once if she's ever thought of divorce. She said, divorce, no, murder. That's what she thought of, but not divorce. That means that there were problems, but they worked it together. It's a beautiful thing to see two people getting married for a very long time. Just recently, you know, the late President Herbert Walker Bush died, and they've been married 73 years. How wonderful. But did you think, we think that it was easy? I'm sure it wasn't easy. I'm sure there were so many things that went along, but they went through together. That is what we are talking about, that you work through it together. Sometimes we are both pain in the neck of the other person, but we work it together and we can go along. Seek help from, you know, either counselors, from your church, from your pastors, you know, your elders, and even, you know, respected people in your family. There are respected people in your family who have also gone through marriages and can be respected by both of you. Talk with them.
So, my brother or sister in Kenya, if you are Swahili speaking, Paul Esana, if you send some message, we can put you in touch with some good counselors in Nairobi who can be very helpful, resourceful to you in this regard. So, you know, let us know through some, and we'll connect you with some people to de-stress you and move you from suffering to enjoying in your marriage. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And this is coming from the United Kingdom. And it says that good evening to you guys, and thank you so much for this insight. My question to Mrs. Crabbe is that how do we spice our marriage so that our marriage will stay on top just as yours? I mean, I don't know you in person, but everything you described on this show clearly shows that you are really enjoying your marriage. Uh, I want to enjoy my marriage as well. So please, what tips will you give women like us who are just younger in marriage? I'm just 2 years old in marriage, and I want to enjoy it to the fullest. What should I do?
You know, spicing up your marriage, I think we talked about a few things already. Doing things together, you know, little things. When, the woman is cooking in the kitchen, the man is helping, come around, do something. Can you cut onions or tomatoes for her? Do something with each other. At all times, do things together. Read together. Or if one reads something, share with the other person. Go out together. Sometimes just for a walk, around the area, some 30 minutes walk, and you are talking. Walk together. Do things, have a bath together. Eat together. Sit down and watch TV together with each other. Little things. Give each other little surprises. What does your husband like? What does your wife like? Think about those things and surprise them with it. Doing things together is mainly what happens, being transparent with each other, appreciating each other. When things are done for you, say a big thank you. When you are given something, make the person know that you really appreciate each other. Call each other when you are not together, when you are at work. Sometimes call each other, just finding out how you are doing. If nothing at all, when you say goodbye to each other, when you get to work, call each other. I got to work, I got to the office safely. Sometimes, during the day, call. Maybe at lunchtime or when you are on break, just finding out how you are doing. It all spices it up, And sometimes you have gone almost the whole day. You haven't called each other. Just call it. Oh, I just realized I haven't called you this today. Just find out how you are doing. It all adds up. So these are some of the things you can do with each other.
I have to say this one. For the ladies, tell your husband you love him. I love you is not formulated for men only. So the ladies, tell we the men too that you love us.
And when the men say I love you, don't say me too.
Me too now in the US, it means something different, which is not loving. So don't say me too. It means something negative.
Sometimes you be the first, you the woman, be the one to say I love you. For your husband to say I love you too. And when your husband says I love you, you say I love you too. Mm-hmm. Very much.
All right. Thank you so much. Those are just some wonderful ideas. Great.
Very good. Another set of questions just popped in. But before we go to the question, I want to say good evening to Michael Cecil Nikote Jani, our executive producer, working very hard behind the scene to make sure all the questions are coming in. The next question that came in is coming from Brussels in Belgium. And it says that, thank you for this evening. Wow, 20,000 plus people enjoying the show. I have learned a lot this evening. But my question to you, Mr. Crabbe, is that men will always be men and women will always be women. So sometimes our wives should understand that we are men. There are things that we love to do and we should be allowed to do them. Like going to the sports, going to watch games, having fun with friends, having a couple of beer in the club with friends. we should be allowed to do that. My wife restricts me at every front, and sometimes I feel like I just have to sneak out and go have fun and come back and face the consequence. What do you think? Thank you.
I'm chuckling here, so I let you hear it. Well, okay. Let's take from your wife's perspective. Why does she restrict you? I'm using your own words. All these things you mentioned, you realize all of them do not include your wife. And every minute, every hour a husband spends with others is a minute, an hour that is spent away from the wife. Now, let me take it biblically. God said in Genesis 2 verse 8, it's not good for the man to be alone. He didn't say, I will make him friends to share life with him. He said, I will make a helper suitable. He made the wife. Okay, that's what the Bible says. So you don't marry the wife and then she's alone, because she too needs company. Companionship is one of the basic reasons people get married. That's why we say, I want to spend the rest of my life with you. That's marriage, okay? Now, second, if you are spending all this time apart from her, perhaps the reason she's restricting you is that she wants some time with you. So, can you, both of you, not you alone, think of some things you can do together? And I hope she's listening. If she's not listening, at least you can play this part of the podcast later on for her to listen to. She needs also to think of sharing in some of these things. Maybe occasionally you can go to watch the sports together, a football match once a while, and if you're home watching TV, she can sit and watch it too. Maybe you should share with them, Vivian, that you used not to like watching sports.
Not that I didn't like sports, but the way he watched sports, I began to really hate it. Everything sports, and all kinds of sports. But then it got to a time I realized, you know what? As the saying goes, if you can't beat them, you join them. So instead of not understanding anything about sports, I began to ask questions, and you just learn to ask at the right time. You don't, when the game is very, very tense, you don't ask questions, you are disturbing. So just watch. But you ask questions at the right time. And before long, I began to understand every sport. I didn't used to understand football. Soccer. Football. No, soccer first. But I began to understand everything. I didn't used to understand American football. Now I understand tennis. I didn't understand anything, but I started asking questions, and now I understand it all. Everything, any sport that he watches, I began to watch, and I realized I watch with him now. And sometimes, even when he is watching and I'm not watching, he can come, hey, come and see. Look at how the goal was scored, or look at what the person did. We share together. We know people who go to the stadium together. With the women go with their husbands to watch the game. You can do that with your wife. Why is it exclusive only for you, the boys? Sometimes the danger is that when the boys, that's when they begin to misbehave. They go, you are going to drink beer by yourself. That's when you bring other women to come and sit with you and drink the beer. Why can't you go with your wife? If you are only drinking beer, why can't you go with them so that they too, they will sit there and watch? That is the danger. But you can work all these things together, and then nobody will be restricting you. And you may also maybe find out your wife's love language. Maybe her love language is having quality time with you. So she wants to be with you most of the time and share with you. So maybe you should find out and see how you can work that with her. Maybe that's how she feels loved when she's with you. So the more you are away from her, she feels unloved.
Thank you so much. As the saying goes, sharing is caring. If you can let her into that part of your life, it might make life perhaps even more pleasant. And before you realize it, there's no restriction because she shares in some of it, and then she says, okay, well, these ones you can do by yourselves. You know, what Vivian didn't tell you is that sometimes she sees certain plays that I don't catch. You know, like the past World Cup, she was talking about how the refs made a mistake, or, you know, I'm disputing a penalty. And she says, no, it was a penalty. And then slow motion proves her right. Now, mind you, I was the one who taught her some of these things. Now, she's catching things I don't catch. So you never know. You know, when you share, it really enriches the relationship. But there's a whole lot you can share. And yes, men will always be men, women will always be women, and for that matter, there's a whole lot we can share to make our joint relationship, husband, wife, man, woman, even more enjoyable. Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we go to the next question, which is coming from Nigeria, this same person responded back and he said, well, my wife is too spiritual. Sometimes she needs to slow down. Life is not all about being spiritual. We pray, we pay tithe, we go to church, we don't do evil to anybody, we serve God diligently, but God has also given us life to enjoy. So I'm enjoying my life. Thank you, Mr. Crabbe, for agreeing with me.
And not, but it's not only your life. You see, your is no longer singular. It's now plural. So the your must be plural. Not only you enjoying, but she must also be able to enjoy. So yes, some of the things you do, she might not be able to share in, but yeah, some of the things too, she could share in it. That's why I said if she's not listening now, play it for her to listen. And you never know. Once you begin discussing, you might find that your wife isn't as uptight as you think she is. You know? So you try it and let's know how it works. Wonderful. Over to you, Sam.
Great. So the next question says, I have a question to ask, and I would like if you can give a specific response to this. In marriage, is sex a right or a privilege? If it is a right, what make it so? If it is a privilege, what make it so? Thank you.
Both. It is both. We wanted a specific answer. I've given it. It is both. It's a right because the Bible says so. I'm taking it from the Bible. 1 Corinthians 7, you can read from verses 2 to 5. Vivian is looking it up. She'll share with us in a short while. 1 Corinthians 7, verses 2 to 5.
1 Corinthians chapter 7, verses 2 to 5. Nevertheless, because of sexual immorality, let each man have his own wife, and let each woman have her own husband. Let the husband render to his wife the affection due her, and likewise also the wife to her husband. The wife does not have authority over her own body, but the husband does. And likewise the husband does not have authority over his own body, but the wife does. Do not deprive one another, except with consent for a time, that you may give yourselves to fasting and prayer, and come together again, so that Satan does not tempt you because of your lack of self-control.
All right. So, here, in this is from the New King James, right?
Yes.
The New International Version talks of, instead of affection, it uses marital duty, talking about the sexual relationship. So, it's a right. Each of you has a right to the other person's body. you see. But it's also a privilege because the person willingly offers the body to you. So there is nothing like demanding sex from each other. It's not a demand. This is a request, and the more, the better we treat each other in the relationship, the easier this flows, So we think of sex more as a celebration of our love within the context of marriage, you see. And yes, it's a privilege because not everybody will have the right to your spouse's body once you are married. No. It's exclusive. That's why we say it's both a right and a privilege. And yes, if you only demand your right without considering the responsibilities that go along with it, there's always trouble. One simple word for that is abuse. So if you demand the right to have sex with your wife or with your husband and you mistreat them, it ends up in abuse of the body you are claiming a right to. Consider it a privilege that somebody offers his or her body to you exclusively. That's very important. That's why this is a sacred relationship, not something to be shared anywhere else, but within the context of marriage. So when we say right, don't forget it's also a privilege, and it comes with responsibilities. I hope we've been specific enough. Thank you.
I hope so. I hope so. The next question is coming from the neighboring country of Ghana, Togo, and the question here is, so you talked about ways by which we should make our marriage. I think this person is writing in French, so please pardon the grammar. You talked about making marriage beautiful and having expectation. Should the expectation be well spelled before you get married, or should the expectation be developed in the process of your marriage? I'm sure what he's trying to say, if I will paraphrase, is asking whether or not you should sit down and talk about your expectation before you get married, or should you develop your expectation whilst married?
Of course. Okay.
Both ways. Everybody has the expectations, so you talk about it before the marriage. Mm-hmm. But even in the marriage, you will still have some expectations, so you keep talking about it. You talk about it first, the ones you have before the marriage. Talk about it. Let each other know. And then during the marriage, as you go along, other things may come up. Still talk about it and spell it out. Don't assume that the person should know. Talk about it.
Speaking with his disciples, Jesus said in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 14, verse 28, suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Won't you first sit down and estimate the cost to see if you have enough money to complete it? That's what Vivian said. Talk about it before the marriage. But as time goes on, our circumstances change. We ourselves, some of our ideas and thoughts with which we entered the marriage can also change. And that's why within the marriage, we need also to talk about it. Keep a conversation going. Perhaps something you planned to do 5 years ago, your circumstances have changed. Assuming you decided you're going to keep your car for 7 years. By the end of the 4th year, the car is in such bad shape, but you also have the means to get a new one. Would you continue spending money on repairs, or would you rather get a new one and save money in the long run? Or would you decide, no, we said 7 years, before we will change. So we'll keep it at that. So things, change. Our expectations can also change because we're human. And so we have to go along with that, with the changes that come, and then work together on addressing whatever has changed. What should not happen is for one person to continue behaving as if everything is the same. That will not help the relationship, So yes, if certain ideas you had before the marriage or expectations you had before the marriage have changed, bring them up and say, I used to think this way, but I've been thinking of such and such lately. And you can tell from what we've been saying that it's important to keep your communication lines open as a couple. Whether you're in a relationship, whether you're in a marriage, make sure you can talk about these things, and then be able to handle them properly rather than keep them inside and have them stress you out. Very good question.
Awesome. So, again, in case any of you have a question, or John and Co, if you have questions from your end and you want to ask, please don't let me intimidate you at all. Go ahead and ask them as well. In the meantime, we have a question coming from Ivory Coast, and the question goes like, I want to also talk about the question number 3 that you asked. How does one develop and maintain trust in a relationship? My question to you is that when trust is completely broken, and you know what I mean by broken, and so when trust is broken, what are the steps that one will have to take in order to regain the trust again in marriage? Giving you example, myself and my husband, the trust is completely broken because my husband has gone out of our marital home and impregnated a young girl who is equally the same as our daughter's age. And so it is devastating for me, but my culture does not permit me to walk away from marriage like that. We are still here, but there is no trust. When my husband goes to work, I don't expect anything than to see him go fornicate or commit adultery. I don't have evidence, but that is my thought because of what he has done in the past. How do I get this repair so that I will live a happy life? Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we're so sorry to hear about this. Unfortunately, sometimes things like that happen. But you need not continue to live in this pain. So one of the first things to do is maybe you have, but can you find out from your husband why this happened? Why did this happen? And don't settle for, how men are. No, we don't buy that. Not every man is like that. In fact, most men are not like that. So, why did this happen? What led him to this young woman, somebody the age of his own daughter? Because finding out what led him into that relationship can open your eyes, can open your mind to something that may be lacking in your relationship with him, And it may be that it's not you at all. So don't blame yourself for it. And then the other thing you need to do is to forgive your husband. And forgiveness does not depend on the other person. Forgiveness is from you. So you set yourself free from continually thinking, my husband has gone to work. He's going to sleep with another woman. My husband home. He said 6 o'clock. It's now 7. He must be with another woman. Forgiving him completely. And if you can't say it yourself or do it yourself, ask God to give you the strength to do so. And tell Him that He's hurt you and you forgive Him. But also let Him know you are willing to work with Him so that such a thing doesn't recur. Of course, there are the practical issues. If he's had a child with that person, the upkeep of that child and all, you know, quite often women separate themselves from that. And what happens? It's the man alone. So what happens? His mind will definitely keep going over to that person. So why don't you make yourself part of dealing with how to handle that child that has been born? Yes, it will be difficult. But you know what? It's not him alone taking the decisions. Now you will also know what decisions are being taken. You can also contribute. That child, we all don't know who that child will become in future. But you show some goodness and kindness to that child rather than hatred. This is very important. So long as you do not forgive your husband, it's going to be difficult for the weight of what has happened to be taken off your mind. That's why you see how what he's done is controlling your mind. Whenever he's not around, see what you are thinking about. And he may not be involved in that at all. And you may actually be isolating him from you or pushing him further away from you, which might lead him into further trouble. But there is a way you begin to bring him back to yourself, to be thinking more about you than outside the home. It's not an easy path, but it can be done. We know people who have lived through that, and yes, today they are enjoying their marriage. And that child of the, external relationship, so to speak, the infidelity, that child is being well taken care of. And that child is not growing thinking somebody hates me. No fault of that child. So, tough as it is, if you need help, let us know and ask God for wisdom and for the strength, emotional strength, to be able to deal with it. It's not going to be easy, but it can be done. So much. So, coming over to you. And for those on the line, if you have a question, you can also ask. No trouble there. As Sam goes through, sifts through the next set of questions to bring to us.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that. So the next set of question here. Let's come to Ohio, Springfield, Ohio, and he says here that he said, "How can I?" He said, "How can I?" He said, "How can I know this person will be the right person to marry?" So I thought that was one of the reasons why we court. And during courting, we get the opportunity to understand each other. My question to you is that lately, though, it has become more of an obligation that when you date somebody, you must absolutely get to marry the person. And in an event where it doesn't lead to a marriage, people consider you to have taken advantage of each other and gone your own ways. I disagree because there were two ladies that I dated. Their temperament wasn't suitable for me, and so I respectfully walked away from the relationship, and I am having fun. And so, do you agree or disagree with the notion that when people courtship do not end up in marriage, it is considered to be a waste of time and abuse of each other?
Well, your experience, already answers the question partly, you know, and maybe for those listening, we would also ask rhetorically, do you think you would have been better off marrying one of those people, knowing very well that their temperaments would not mesh with yours? That would have been signing on to a lifetime of misery, perhaps. But you did the honorable thing and you came out of those relationships. However, that's the second one you've walked out of. So perhaps you need to be more cautious about who you decide to actively court. Maybe that's why people might be saying you are wasting their time, you know. But perhaps a more important point we need to make here is this. We're finding that many of our younger friends are getting into relationships with marriage straight away. So they meet somebody or someone introduces them to another person, they're thinking marriage. Everything they're doing is pointing to marriage, you see. So they're not really taking the time to get to know each other well. Or even when they do, and there are things they don't like about the person, things they think might be deal breakers, they try to rationalize and go on to marry the person. And guess what? We have heard people blame their friends who introduced them to each other. You see, what did we say? Your marriage is your responsibility. It's your choice. It's you who will say, I do. Nobody else is going to say that for you. So make sure you are taking the right decision because you will have to live with it. You know, this is important. Get into relationships to get to know people better, not with marriage, boom, as your aim. The relationship can evolve into marriage. Great. Where you can see things aren't working out, it's often far better to check out quicker than try to string it out hoping that things will change. It just brings more heartache because the longer you are in the relationship, the more likely your partner is going to expect that it will lead to marriage. And guess what? It's not only your partner. Friends, parents, church people, co-workers, all of them begin to wonder when will the question be popped. Because they see you. You are attending functions together. This is the time for Christmas parties in offices. You know, you're inviting him, you're inviting her. You've gone to 2, 3 places, Thanksgiving past. You went for Thanksgiving. Hey, they're waiting. So did he say something? So what is he? They're waiting. But you know this is not going to go far. So what are you also waiting for before you say, no, this is not going to go further? But take the time, young friend, take the time to get to know people before you think about marriage with the person. Important. Don't start a relationship with marriage. The fact that somebody says they would like to date you does not mean marriage. This is why you should look carefully, think carefully, act wisely. Very important. Anything from the woman's perspective, you think?
I think you said it all. So,
thank you. Okay.
All right, thank you. And this is coming from the city of Manassas in Virginia. And it says that, thank you very much. So where do we draw the lines? Is it biblically okay for two individuals who are courting to enter into a marriage union, who along the way engage themselves sexually? is it a red flag for them, or it's appropriate for them to call it a quit, or will you recommend they go ahead to get married? This is a question my sister asked me, and I was waiting patiently for this show to ask. So please help me answer my sister. Thank you.
First of all, it is something we have talked over and over and over again. When you are courting, it is not marriage. When you are in friendship, it is not marriage. So don't involve yourself sexually. And for most of the cases, when you start involving yourself sexually, the relationship, stops there. You are not able to develop the relationship, to discuss things, talk about things properly. Do not involve yourself in that. However, if it has happened that you have involved yourselves sexually, it is not for us to tell you, stop the relationship or go ahead. How about the two of you? You need both of you to, if you are Christians, both of you need to repent and tell God, we're sorry, we won't do it again. You can continue the relationship without any sex anymore and concentrate on the salient things you look for. Discuss things, talk about your expectations and all that. See if you want to be married to this person. And you can continue, but if you feel that you don't want this person anymore, that's your own decision. You can decide to call it quits and whatever. It depends on the two of you. But begin with, don't involve yourselves sexually. It is exclusively for marriage.
There's a point she made some time back, and you might find this on the Be Inspired network, website. I'm sure you'll find the recording there on sex. Very, very, lively discussion we had about that. The key thing that research is showing is that when a couple have sex, the level of the relationship or the depth of it, however you put it, at the point where they begin to have sex, often doesn't develop much after that. So if you haven't really solidified your relationship with each other and you begin having sex hoping that will bond you together, guess what? Let's assume you haven't even worked on how to resolve conflicts. How are you going to do it now? And unfortunately, what often happens is, either partner might begin to feel guilty, now that we have slept together, or might feel bonded. Now that we have slept together, if I don't marry the person and I go and marry somebody else, it's not right. Now you're going to rationalize why you should marry the person. But like I said, if you haven't really developed the relationship, guess what's going to happen when you get married? You have to think very, very carefully. Very carefully. And I am almost certain there are people married, listening, they're thinking, is that the reason why, when you're thinking of some things that have happened in your relationship, and you're realizing maybe that's why you are stuck in second gear or third gear. You can't get into overdrive. Very important. Take the time to develop the relationship. God knows why. The first thing he did after creating male and female, he blessed them. Genesis 1:28. The blessing came and then said to them, be fruitful and multiply. These days, because we can prevent the fruitfulness, as in having children, we think it's okay to do that before we come for the blessing. It ain't so. Very important. And then Genesis 2:24, man leaves father and mother, is joined to his wife or united to his wife, and the two become one flesh. Genesis 2:25, the man and his wife were both naked and not ashamed. Not the man and his girlfriend, not the woman and her boyfriend, not the man and a certain woman, not the woman and a certain man. Two spouses were both naked and not ashamed. Let's watch out. God knows why he placed them in sequence. Very clearly so. Let's not change what he has set in place and think things will be better. We don't know better than God. Thank you.
Wow, very powerful statement right there, and I'm sure every one of you is taking notes as well. We have 4 minutes to wrap up, and I want to take this opportunity to wish Reverend Barbara Ama a happy birthday. Tomorrow is her birthday, so we are asking God's blessings upon her life, and also we want to thank all the Being Inspired folks who have diligently stood with us for our monthly marital series. Lily Valeriodwe, our marketing coordinator, David Donko, our studio engineer, Michael Sisolni Kutejani, our executive producer, and our one and only graphic designer, Abraham Akwe, all the way in Ghana. I want to thank all of you for your support for this monthly family relationship program. We are grateful for all your support. So now we have 2 more questions left, and then I will hand over to Mr. Crabbe to wrap it up. So the first question of the 2 is coming from Cape Coast in the central region of Ghana, and it says that when you are distressed and you needed money so badly, and all you could get was a politician who tells you he will support you and support your schooling, but the only way it can help you out is by having sexual relationship with you. This is my personal experience. I am not in school now because I refuse to accept that, and so now my friends are laughing at me, thinking that I don't have what it takes to be eloquent, but I thought I did something right in the sight of God by not stooping low, and I'm facing the consequences of it. My question to you is that, should I have just done that? By now I probably may have a degree, and all this suffering I'm going through wouldn't have happened. Or did I still think I made a rightful decision? Thank you.
My sister, you don't know that. You don't know if you have slept with a politician, whether by now you'd have had a degree. That one we are not sure about. But let me assure you that you did the right thing. Congratulations to that. Don't sell your body for anything. If that person, if anybody wants to help you sincerely, they will help you. If anybody wants to, everybody listening on this line, if anybody wants to help you, and the only way they want to help you is to have sex with you, let them go. Your body is more precious than that. And God has a way of bringing things people's way. God will have a way of bringing you somebody who will help you. And especially your friends who are laughing at you that you don't have what it takes because you didn't give in. You will have the last laugh, I promise you. Some time to come, you will have the last laugh. Don't worry at all. And you will have no regrets if you have kept to that, to keep yourself pure. Don't sell your body for anything else. You know, God takes us through different ways. Maybe your friends have gone on through this, they've had their degree by now. You don't know. Maybe you may not even have a degree, but God will make you somebody special some time to come. I am proud of you that you did not bend to that.
Quick verse to help you. Jesus said Truly I tell you, no one who has left home or brothers or sisters or mother or father or children or fields, that is property, including money, yes, for my sake, and for the sake of the gospel, will fail to receive 100 times as much in this present age. Homes, brothers, sisters, mothers, children, and property fields, along with persecutions and in the age to come, eternal life. You think you lost a little money? You're promised at least 100 times more in a blessed way by the Lord Himself. So, last question. Our time is up.
Wamaya, don't you? Wamaya, don't you? Wamaya, don't you? Wamaya, don't you?
This has to be developed more in depth, and perhaps it's one of the topics we'll consider early in 2019. So we also would like to take the opportunity to thank you all for opening your gizmos, whether you are online, your phone, whatever, your tablets, your PCs, laptops, to listen to us, your phone lines, and sharing month after month with us. Thank you for doing so.
Mm-hmm. Just to say a little bit about the question, you know yourself. So maybe you parted company and then you went and thought about it. Both of you feel that, well, we are meant for each other. We are meant for each other. You can come back. There's no problem about that. You should know yourself. If you think that it is worthwhile to get back with each other, fine, you know yourself. And if you think that it is not worth getting back together, it's still up to you.
But whatever you do so with your eyes wide open. True love is never blind. Hears all things, considers all things, and can love in spite of, but never covers anything except evil. So, we would like to thank you, and we pray God's blessing upon all of us as we end this year and as we enter into 2019. May we do so resolving to enjoy our relationships and the marriages God has given us. And above everything, may we resolve to be better people, individuals, and get closer to God in 2019. God bless you. Merry Christmas, and hoping to be with you all in 2019. Thank you. Bye for now. And thank you to Sammy and Be Inspired Podcast for all that you do, for John, Amma, all who have been with us on the line, DC line here in Washington, D.C. God bless you. See you, hear you in 2019. Bye for now.
Welcome to Weekend Night Live, hosted by Samuel Jacobs Abbey, where we play music, talk shows, and interviews on Be Inspired Podcast Network. Stay tuned and keep your dial on www.beinspiredpodcast.com. Don't forget to stay connected, be inspired, be unique, and be different.